In this video, we'll be going over the roles portion of the TELUS Business Connect admin portal. This section here allows you to give control to different users if they need to do certain things within the TELUS Business Connect system. As you can see here, there are a few roles that are predefined, and you can see the description of them next to them there. By default, every new user or new extension that is added is given the international standard account, which is just user level access with international dialing access. Essentially what that looks like is when you go to My Extension, they just get to see the basics of their own extension, right? So you've got their own overview, their own messages, their own call log, contact settings, and more. If it was just a user, they wouldn't actually see this admin option. But because I am in the admin account, meaning they have this account has an admin role assigned to it, I'm able to go to the admin portal, click on the different tabs, and make changes as necessary. By default, just the one account is a super admin. But let's say you wanted someone else to have access to the same levels of access that you do. To do that, you just need to go to a super admin and go ahead and assign that role to another user. As you see, once you click on a role, it gives you the list of permissions. And in the super admin, every single permission is enabled. You can also edit the role if you need to, or set it as the default type of role. Once you're finished with that, just hit save. I'm going to hit cancel just because I'm not going to turn on that change. And then to assign the user, you can click on the Assigned Users tab on the left-hand side and go ahead and click on Assign User. From here, you can select whichever user you want to give the role to and click Assign. And you can see there that the All-Star Demo 3 is now a super admin. If you want to remove someone from that role, you can just click Remove, and you'll see that once you remove them, they'll automatically be reverted back to the default role. So we'll go ahead and do that. Now let's say you wanted to give someone a little bit more permissions than the basic, but not all the way up to super admin. You can go ahead and use one of the predefined ones if you find that it sits, or if you find that it is what you are looking for. Or you can go ahead and create a custom one. As you can see here, we did create a custom all-star rule. You can click on New Role and select which role you want to use as a starting point, and then build off of that one. So let's say we needed to have somebody to be a phone system admin, where they need to modify some of the devices, but they don't need access to everything else. You can see here, this is everything that they'll have access to, and click on Next. We can describe the role. In this situation, we're just going to use a test role as the name. And if you want to put a description in there, you can do that as well. Click on Next, and then you'll be brought to the entire list of permissions where you can modify what permissions they are allowed to do. The ones that are grayed out, you cannot modify because they are needed. But be careful in removing some of these, as if you were to remove domestic calls, this would disable this person, depending on if they have this role assigned to them, from making internal calls. Disabling voicemail would also disable their voicemail. So there are some advanced ways of using this, as you can imagine, but you don't necessarily want to use a role to make those changes or restrictions, because not too many people would know why something isn't working. So just be careful when customizing a role that you are for sure selecting the items you want to use. And as you can see, there are quite a few different ones that you can turn on or off depending on what you need to use it for. After you've created your custom role, you can assign the users now or do it later. If you click on Assign, it'll just bring you up the list of users that you can add this role to. I'm going to go ahead and click on this one here. And you'll also notice that if you have multi-site enabled, you're actually going to be able to assign this role domain to a specific site location if needed. If you don't specify which site, you can just leave it blank, and this role will apply to all of the system. Now, if I wanted this role to apply to only the All-Star site settings, we can go ahead and click on All-Star and select Assign. And what you're going to see now is if I were to go to that user that we just added that to, they're actually going to have access to the All-Star multi-site settings. You can actually see here right below the test role in the gray, it actually says it's assigned for All-Star. So this is kind of nice where you can, create a custom role and assign it to a user. And if they are within a site, just keep them within that site so you don't have to give them permission to modify everything within your system. In addition to that, you may want to go ahead and change just one specific user's role. You can do that from this section here. You don't have to go into the role section. Just important to note different ways to do this. You'll also see here that, he has the test role enabled and the site is assigned to the All-Star site. Now, if we wanted to back off and say, let's just give them this role to the entire company, we can click on company and hit save. And we'll see there that that role is there. It's just no longer specified to that domain of All-Star. And let's say we wanted to just put them back to a standard user. We can go ahead and click on standard and hit save. And you'll see there the role has been reverted back to the original role type. You'll also see here that the standard role will be listed there. Roles can be used for a couple different things. I've seen them used as ways to modify call queues even. If you're looking to modify after-hours settings, things like that, you may want to create a custom role for specific users if they need to go in and modify those custom rules for specific sites. Rather than giving them entire access to the entire company with a super admin role, you can just create a custom role and just make sure that you have the phone system checked off in those permissions and assign that role to the user you want to be able to modify those settings, and you're good to go from there.